Achinu l'k'eira eino muban ma she'amar nia violation nisi. Shezeh medaber malchus de'en sof atzmi. Are im bebchinas malchus da'asiya yesh bo shinoi ben din l'chesed. Shehu bebchinas Hitbonenut chulu Mucha shegam malchus de'en sof yesh shinoi zeh me'achar shama ani hu. Canal. So, how could it be? If in Malchus of Asiya is mamish the same thing as Malchus of Ein Sof, and there's an actual change in Malchus of Asiya, there's Hitbonenut between Din and Chesed. So, it had, if you say everything came from Malchus of Ein Sof, so it had to be in Malchus of Ein Sof also. It came Malchus of Malchus Rolam Mishav Mamish Canal. Dahainu, kasher, oil b'tzena aposher v'atzmus mamish, liyos chofetz chesed, ari chofetz chesed ha'atzmi, azeh yerid ad lamata mamish, b'chofetz chesed malchus asiya. V'ken la'hefech, if you move on, mikol anal. So, also the opposite meaning in Gvura is also like that. V'gam, areh v'kol yom mechadish ma'aseh bereishit lamata mata. Shahu bekadmin muchuchmas abreishit bara adru amalos batzmus mamish. This comes mamish. We just said that if mamish comes from the asmus, if the chidush on the outside comes mamish from the asmus, imken yes pchinas chidush gamba asmus or in safe. So if it comes from the asmus and there's a change on the bottom, so there must be a change on the top. Ve'ech amar ani lo shaniti klal. So how does it say I totally didn't change at all? We also say, you're the same before the world, and you're the same after the world. So how is that possible?
Right.
Since there was a change that the world came, and the change came from him, so it must have been a change. He made a change, that means he must have at least thought a change. Same thing. It's before it was created. It's also before it was Datzilus, the Kiadua. Balderach Marshal me'adam atachton. Hare yesh shinui gam berotzen atzmi mirotzen shel din lerotzen shel chesed, the Kiadua. So there is, even in the rotzen atzmi, there's a change in the actual rotzen atzmi. Also, how do we say Yehi Rotzen Milfanecha? We're telling him Rotzen Chadash. Shitapech Rotzen Shel Din Lechesen. We say Milfanecha Mamish. We said in the Rotzen Asmi there should be a Shinui. And we see down here all kinds of changes. Like, even in Torah it says he created the world, and then he was mitnachem, he destroyed the world with a marble. So there was a change.
Right.
But the explanation is the inyan of the tzimtzum. The im haya shefa derech ila v'ilul, if was actually in a way of a cause and effect, haya neifil inyan shinui pilus chulu, then you could say that there was actually a change in the actual cause. If there's a change in the effect, there has to be a change in the cause. The cause that's causing it must have changed, otherwise the effect wouldn't have changed.
Right.
But it doesn't work like that. It's not that there's an actual cause and effect, so you have to say that the cause changed. It's only a light. So, in a way, one of the things is you can already have a marshal on it, is like in a movie. You know, the old-time movies. I don't know if Shimon even knows how they worked in those days. In the old-time movies, there used to be a projector that made out lights. And in front of the light, there's a film that's metamsim the light into the picture. So it comes out sometimes red and sometimes green and sometimes yellow. And different parts are different colors. But the actual light of the projector really stays the same. There's no change. There's no change in the light of the projector that it actually changes. The light of the projector is exactly the same. The only thing that changes is the tzimtzumim of the light, meaning that the basic thing is that you're mitzamtzim the light in different ways. But the actual original light doesn't change at all.
Right.
So that's the first inyan of the thing, that it's not the change in the actual self, because it's not actually like a cause and effect. That, in other words, I'm pulling something, so if I let go, it'll fall. So it means the change was because I let go. That means I changed my hold on it. It doesn't work like that. It's a matter of the tzimtzum. So like the thing, you know, you go there one day and you see a funny movie, and you go the next day and you see a scary movie, you say the light changed. The first light was a funny light, and the second light was a scary light. It really doesn't work like that. It's exactly the same light coming out of the projector. The difference was in the tzimtzumim.
Right.
So, but the hamshacha is only in a way of an or b'ziv levad, the gam hu al yidei tzimtzum, and even that, the fact that it's the or b'ziv, meaning that the projector for sure didn't change. And it was just a light coming out from the projector, and even that was through different tzimtzumim. Imken en ba'asmus lakut shum shinui klau. Gam b'malchus malchus asiya. Really, even in malchus of asiya, there really isn't a change. Meaning the light that's in malchus of asiya actually didn't change. The actual selfness of this doesn't change. It's only the external thing that comes to you that changes.
Right.
The kachu adruma milos, and this is the way, it's all the way to the top. Acha tzimtzum yesh prinat shinui. It's only after the tzimtzum there's a shinui. V'zeh mitzad mekabel mavad. This is only as far as the receivers kiyadua. Ubir inyan hafresh ben oil l'shefa yadua l'kol. There's a difference between or and a shefa. A shefa means an actual thing like water coming out. A light doesn't mean like that. A light means that it's the etzem is nothing is being lost in the etzem, and it's just a light coming out. It's not an actual shefa. Like the basic thing is it's not really like the light of the sun. The light of the sun is actually a shefa. It just looks like a light.
Right.
There's actual something coming out of it. But the thing is like the light of Moshe Rabbeinu on the Zekanim. That it wasn't a shefa, it was a light. Meaning that nothing was lost. And a shefa, if you give a shefa, like if I have $1 million and I'm giving a shefa of even $1, I have $1 less than a million now.
Right.
A light is not like that. A light is not the actual, from the etzem, nothing comes out from the etzem of the thing. A shefa means that the etzem of the thing is coming out. So amnam gam b'chinas or hutzrach lios al yedei tzimtzum. And even in the light itself, it had to be dafka through a tzimtzum. V'al ken tzarich kol adam leida inyan tzimtzum v'yidbainin ba b'kol eilam l'pi erkai. So you have to understand how the tzimtzum works. That the changes are not in the actual self, certainly, and they're not even in the light. It's only in how much light reaches you.
Right.
There's a tzimtzum in the light. So So that's why you have to know, and you have to be misbeinen in the inyan of the Tzimtzum, b'kol olam ki erkoi, ki hu ha'ikar b'klal yichud alaki ben shinu l'gabe atmos. This is the main thing of how the whole thing did not really change. And over here, the thing of the Tzimtzum is that you say, but wait a minute, in the projector, there is a change between before it hits the film and after it hits the film. There's less light coming through. And here you're saying it's the same thing. There's a symptom and there's less light coming through. But the real thing is there really is less light coming through. It's only to the Kabbalah. Really, the whole light is still there.
Right.
And the symptom is not kipshutai. It's not in a projector. The symptom is kipshutai.
Right.
I mean, there's actually less light coming through, and the light that's afterwards is mamish less light. In the Hishtalshelut, the light that's down here is really mamish the original light. It's just coming down in a hidden way, but really, if you know, if you really, you can expand it back into the original light. In other words, the actual light that came down is the light of the Torah, which seems to be just a book of stories and laws which are equivalent to, like, American law or Aesop's fables or Confucius says. But really, it's not like that. Really, the whole entire light is in the Torah. It's just hidden, like it said that he saw that the light was. He didn't want the light to go to the Rishonim, so he hid it.
Right.
And where did he hide it? In the Torah. But the thing is that really it's all there.
Right.
Where are we? Really, as far as that's only the way we see it. But as far as the way he sees it, it's really equal. Till by him, Atzilus Nasiya is mamish the same thing. Hagam Shazel Lagabe Pchinas HaMakir Bilvad, even though this is only in relationship to the Makir, Anikra Sevikol Almin, Beklal Lefrat, Milmaila Madrogas HaOyer, Shavchinas HaMalakol Almin, in the earth it's in the Bechina Malakol Almin. There seems to be, yes, a difference. The Makif is Makif all the... By the Makif, it's all the same, but in the Orpnimi, as it goes down, gets lessened.
Right.
Yadua. Achine gam bebchinas Orpnimi, bebchinas b'male, b'klal ufrat, and shinui chulu. Really, in the Orpnimi, it's really also no shinui. The Elyon v'tausen shabo shavin. So that the upper and the lower is really mamish equal. So that really there's just as much light down here as there is up there. In other words, a mamish total infinite light here.
Right.
The only thing is the change is in the Makablim that you don't see it. And this is like, you say, what do you mean you don't see it and it's there? And this is like the Indian of the angel with Bilam, you know?
Right.
The donkey could see it.
Right.
It was there, really. It was just there in an invisible fashion. It's not that it wasn't there.
It was invisible to him.
It was just invisible to him.
To the donkey, it wasn't invisible.
Because it was actually there, and you see that really, actually, the angel was not invisible.
Right.
If it would have been invisible, the donkey shouldn't have been able to see it either. It means really was visible, and there was a sort of an adjustment, and this is what basically the Meforshim explained. There was an adjustment in Bilam's head. not to see it.
Right.
So that the change is not really actually in the light, but in the makabel, that he shouldn't be able to see it. But like the Alter Rebbe could see it. Down
Right.
here. He could mamish see how it's mamish the actual infinite light. Why? Because so how come he could see it? If it really was a tzimtzum, then he also shouldn't be able to see it.
Right.
He should only see what came through. But really the whole thing came through, that's why he could see it. And this is also, I think it's by Yecheskel. Yecheskel or Yeshayahu, or I can't remember which one. You remember the king of Aram sent his whole army, and the guy's servant, the Navi's servant, was scared. He said, help, the whole army, Rebbe, the whole army is surrounding us. And he said, Avish opened up his eyes, and he saw there's millions of chariots of angels all around him.
Right.
So, the thing is that before he opened up the guy's eyes, they were still there.
Right.
Otherwise, how could the prophet see them? Not only that, he didn't make them come there. He just opened up his eyes. And he saw what was already there. And he just showed them the angels. There's more than just the angels over there. There's all kinds of things, like he says, Adru Mamailos. It's all right here. Nothing really changed.
Right.
The only thing that changed is in the Makabel, that he can't see it. So really, even in the Mamale, it's also equal. The Elim v'tachton shebay shavim, kmo shenemar, ani lo shaniti, v'ani hu b'chinas Mamale keyadua.
Right.
What is it? Who is Soiviv? Ani is Mamale. So really, in the Mamale also there's no change. V'ken ma shenemar et hashamayim v'et haaretz ani mole, b'ashva achas davka. Mole, it says. Doesn't say Soiviv, it says Mole.
Right.
Mole ze gam b'pchinas or pnimi. This is all this talking about the or pnimi. Kamam relate ater panui minei. There's no place, it's empty from him. Kedu avayim mishum. The gam b'pchinas memale ba yeridas ha'eva shefa al yedei tzimtzumim dafka. It's not really a different light. It's only a tzimtzum, and even that is not really a tzimtzum k'pshutoi. וגם בבחינת הקו החוץ שנמשך מעצמוס או אינסוף שנקרא ממלא כל עלמין דאביה בכלל, הרי הוא נמשך על ידי צמצום בתחילה בעצמוס, והוא צמצום הראשון נקרא מוקם פוני. והוא צמצום הראשון נקרא מוקם פוני בכל הרקע חולו, כמו שמבואר בעץ חיים, like it explains in עץ חיים. And this is what the Hillel Parish was talking about. That this hollow, it doesn't mean that there's a hole in the light. The light is still there. It just, you can't see it. That's all. There can be a reader's Kabbalah mata b'pchinas gulam v'yesher. The same thing how the kav comes down with a gulam v'yesher. Kulu ad shenas b'pchinas keser la'ak hu al yidei tzimtzum. וכן מעק לעתיק וערך אנפים, וגם באצילוס עצמו יש מסך בין כסר לחוכמה בכלל, והוא מה שנאמר הבדיל הפרחס פרסה בין חולו. In other words, it's like a film in between. Like the film between the projector,
Right.
And that's what makes the shapes. Really, in the original light, the light, you can make any kind of movie out of it. Moshem vor bezor kema vol zo mezal nukvek yadu mi malchus atzilus abria yesh masach va malchus bokea masach v'nasa kesel bria. The light goes through the masach, but as it goes through, it gets mitzumtzum, and really it's not like a film. It's actually more like a television. That in a television, the light doesn't go through the masach. Doesn't go like it goes through a film.
Right.
What happens is there's a light that hits the screen from the inside, and that makes the screen shine out from the outside.
Right.
And you're really seeing a different light. In other words, there's little pieces of phosphorescent material. And when there's a beam that hits it from the inside, so then there's a light comes from the outside. So
induced light.
Huh?
Like an
induced light. And that's also a better marshal on this, that over here it's not really the light that's getting lessened. The original light is exactly the same. And really the original light, like in a color TV, the light that's hitting the back of the screen doesn't really have any colors.
Right.
It's just when it hits a red thing, it produces a red color. So there's a better muscle. Why? Because now the change is not at all in the light. Over there you could say, well, there's a change. When the light goes through, there seems to be a change in the light.
Right.
Over here, the light is not really going through. It's a light of a toilda.
Right.
And the light of the toilda is coming from the keli, actually. It's not really the original light.
Right.
You don't see the original light. The original light is hidden. And the light of the toilda, because it hit a blue keli, so it induced this keli to shine forth a blue light, which is the only kind of light it can shine.
Right.
And it shined a blue light because the inner light hit it. So over here also, the Mamalikol Almin really doesn't change at any point.
Right.
Not only that, it's not only the colors, like the thing of like big and little, like Atzilus and Asiya. You say, yeah, but like in Atzilus there's fantastic amounts of light, and in Asiya there's tiny little amounts of light. You say, yeah, but the Or Pnimi doesn't change. The Or Pnimi is Mamish. It's the Or of the Kav, and really the Or of the Kav really also doesn't change. It's really Mamish, the Or Azmi. So why is it different in Asiya? Because the Kalim of Asiya, when the light hits them and tells them to do something, so when it hits Chesed of Asiya, is a tiny little light of Chesed comes out.
Right.
But that's the external light. It's the Or of the Tolda. The actual Or Pnimi in Asiya, all the way down to down here, even in the Klippus, so in other words, the inner light, even all the way down to here, even in the Klippa.
Right.
So like it says that, like now we're learning about Yaakov and Esav. It says Yaakov and Esav are brothers.
Right.
And this is also the thing, even like by Amalek, Haman, which is even worse than Esav.
Right.
It says Ad Lo Yada. If you look as far as the inside of it, it's Ad Lo Yada. Why? Why is it Ad Lo Yada? I mean, this is Haman and this is Mordechai. So how can you say Ad Lo Yada? He says, yeah, because if you're talking about the external thing of Haman was the biggest Rasha ever.
Right.
He was a total Russia. He wanted to kill all the Jews. And Mordechai was a Rebbe, one of the great Rebbeim. So how can you say there's no difference on the inside? You say, well, look, I mean, in terms of the Megillah, you have to read the whole Megillah. If you leave out one Haman, it's the same as if you leave out one Mordechai.
Right.
You leave out one Haman, it's not the Megillah.
Right.
And so how can that be? You say, because when the Haman, as far as Haman, the external thing of the Haman is the thing that he's a Russia.
Right.
As far as the internal thing of the Eibishter, so in the Megillah it never says the Eibishter.
Right.
Why? Actually, it says, it explains. I mean, just a short digest of what all those explanations are saying in regards to what we're talking about here is that really the whole Megillah is Mamish the Eibishter.
Right.
And of course, I mean, it's Torah, which Torah is the Eibishter's name, means the whole Megillah is the Eibishter's name, even though at no point is the Eibishter's name mentioned once in the Megillah, because the whole Megillah is the Eibishter's name. But in order to say the Eibishter's name in the Megillah, you have to read the whole Megillah from beginning to end.
Right.
The same thing like Elokim. If you just say the first three letters, it means Ele, which doesn't mean God.
Right.
Or if you just have the Hey and the Yud, it's like, hi, how you doing?
Right.
So, the thing is that if you leave out one Haman, it's not God's name anymore. You say, how's that possible?
Right.
How could Haman be God's name? She said, yeah, as far as the outside from the Tzimtzum, Haman is Haman. But as far as even the Or Pnimi, there's no difference. It's just when the Or Pnimi hits, you say, Vahi, B'meach HaShveirush, it's like the light is traveling along the pixels on the TV, It hits, it hits, and now you say this one,
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to Haman, it says, now you say Haman. And all the kids are going to make noise. If you leave that out, you didn't do the mitzvah of the Megillah. You didn't say God's name.
Right.
So, as far as, even though there seems to be a change on the outside, there is a change between Haman and Mordechai, but on the inside, there's no change. The same thing that's telling you to say Haman, that's the same thing that's telling you to say Mordechai.
Right.
Nasa Kesel Abriya Valder, so yes, Marsach really it's hero, Malchus Abriya Bakea Masach, and Nasa Kesel is hero, again Malchus is hero Bakea Masach, and Nasa Kesel Lasia, Basia. Ad Malchus Dasia, Shanikra, Hamelach, Hamrema Levade.
Right.
Which, what do you mean, Malchus Dasia is a Melech Hamrema Levade? Malchus Ainsav is a Melech Hamrema Levade. So no, it's the same Melech.
Right.
Just the opposite. Dafka, when he reaches Asiya, that's when he's called a Melech Hamreim Levadai. Because in Atzilus, in my head, I can also be a king,
Right.
In other words, they say he's a legend in his own mind.
Right.
To be a legend in your own mind is easy.
Right.
It's Dafka when you hit Asiya that he's really the Melech. Then he's a Melech Hamreim Levadai. Dafka when he reaches Asiya. It's not when Malchus of Ein Sof. You would think Malchus of Ein Sof would be, and by the way, that's also sometimes, in some places, Melech HaMarim Levada means Malchus of Ein Sof.
One second, let me flip the tape.
Dafka in Asiya. In other words, when does he become a Melech? It's Dafka when in actuality he's a Melech.
Right.
Not when in his head he's a Melech. Chuluk Kamamar Azal Kibiyasa Shalaylam Bereisha Chashucha Bahada Nahira. First, how did he create the world? First, he made dark, and then the light returned. Again, Masha Amrazal, Betchila Alab Machshava Liver Midas Adin, Shubchinas Atzimtzum, the Shem Elokim, Shub Malchus Dasiya. He originally thought to make the world just with a straight Tzimtzum, straight to Asiya.
Right.
That's what it means, Midas Adin. It means the Pchinas HaTzimtzum of Shem Elokim, Sheb Malchus Asiyah. He could have made the world just like that, without anything else. He could have made that Tzimtzum of Shem Elokim and Malchus Asiyah. Could have made the Tzimtzum on the light, and it would right away, poof, be the world.
Right.
But then there wouldn't be a possibility to climb the ladder.
Right.
He said, but then he saw that it wouldn't work out like that. And it does mean, what do you mean? So what? He made a mistake. Then he saw, oh, oops, it wouldn't work out like that. It doesn't mean like that. It means that really all he planned to make was this world.
Right.
It doesn't mean like, oh, first he thought to do it like that, and then he saw it wouldn't work. That's not what it means. It means that really he didn't plan to build Atzilus and all that business.
Right.
All he wanted was this world. But then he saw, means all along he knew that in order for this world to work properly, it had to go through the various symptoms of all the other things, so he involved the Midas HaChesed also.
Right.
Of the light coming through. Level after level. So, P'chinat Tzimtzum Shem Elokim Malchus Asiyah, K'mo Shneimar Bereishis Bara Elokim B'chuchmasa. B'chuchmasa, B'kadmin, Rotzen V'chochma de Malchus Asiyah. Cholu V'dayla Maven. So, like it says, in the beginning, Bara Elokim, that really the original thing was the thing of the she said, what do you mean? But he told us over there the Bekadmin means Keser of Atilus, or higher. And now he's telling us Bereshis means Keser and Atilus, Keser and Chochma. Now he's telling us it's Keser and Chochma of Malchus of Asiyah.
Right.
So, yeah, because that really preceded. In the Machshava Keduma, this came first.
Right.
In the Machshava Keduma, the Keser and Chochma of Malchus of Asiyah means of the final act.
Right.
Toiv Maiseh Machshava Tchila. So really, we say Bereshis Bara, so it depends what you're talking about. If you're talking about the actual beginning of the creation, of how it was actually created, so that the beginning of Atzilus came first.
Right.
You know, like it says, there's a machlokes, which came first, the heaven and the earth.
Right.
So it depends. In actuality, so Bereshis Bara Elokim means the beginning of the Ksarim. Before Atzilus even.
Right.
In other words, the first thing that came is Ak. Keser of Ak.
Right.
But in the Machshava Keduma itself, and especially like in the Glif Glifu, there was no Ak.
Right.
it was straight to Malchus of Asiya.
Right.
And that was the first step. Bereshis bara means he immediately, the first thing he thought of was the end of the thing.
Right.
Like, for instance, when you want a pizza, you don't think of driving there. When you first think of the pizza, the first thing you think of is to actually have the pizza.
Right.
And the whole Hishtalshelut of how to get the pizza, in terms of the Hishtalshelut, so first you have to leave the house and get in the car, and then you have to drive to the pizza place, and all of that business. And the last thing you end up with is the pizza.
Right.
But in Machshava, it's exactly the opposite.
Right.
The first thing he thought of is the pizza. Not only that, not only the first thing he thought of is the pizza, but in the actual first Machshava, that's all there was.
Right.
In other words, Seif Ma'aseh Machshava Tchila doesn't mean that it was backwards, that first there was a Seif Ma'aseh, and then there was a next level, and then there was next level before it.
Right.
Backwards. It means that's all there was over there, is the Seif Ma'aseh.
Right.
That's all he thought of was the pizza.
Right.
He didn't think of nothing else. He just thought of the pizza. So the same thing over here, all he thought of was to make the world.
Right.
Which really he could have done as far as he could have really done it. In other words, the reason we have to go through the old Hishtalshelut to get to the pizza is because we just can't make just a pizza up here.
Right.
He really could have made a pizza just. But he knew that in terms of us and what he wanted from us, the reason he created the world is in order to be media to us how things are.
Right.
So, in order to do that for us, if there wouldn't have been intermediary levels, so you say, but wait a minute. So couldn't he have made a kind of person that could have just jumped?
Right. So
he could have. What do you mean he couldn't? What are you saying? He couldn't. He could have. What do you mean he couldn't? It wouldn't have worked. What do you mean it wouldn't have worked? He could have made it work.
Right.
You say, yeah, but that's not what he wanted. The end of the thing, what he wanted was a kind of person like us that would be able to learn Chassidus like this.
Right.
In other words, he wanted a person that's going to learn the Seder Hishtalshelut, and from the Seder Hishtalshelut, he'll get the original thing before. That's what he wanted. And that's why, therefore, he had to make, because that's what he wanted. But really what he wanted was just the end of it.
Right.
In other words, we were the intrinsic, and that whole other business was extrinsic.
Right.
It was just created for us.
Right.
The same like the thing is, like he wanted people. He didn't want a ground or a sun. But in order to have us, he had to have a ground and a sun. He said, what do you mean? Why did he need? He could have had it just floating in space. But that's not what he wanted. He wanted us doing certain mitzvahs that had to do with a ground and a sun.
Right.
You know, so therefore, but the real thing he wanted was us, not the ground and the sun.
Right.
The Daila Maven. Balpize Yatura Takol. The Mash Amran Yavai Loshanisi. Ben Roshon Chesed Odin. Bekol Olam Dabiyah. Meaning, really, he just wants a certain thing. And this is like a father that 1 minute he's giving his kid candy and the next minute he's shouting at him. He said, what are you changing? He said, I didn't change nothing. I want exactly the same thing. I want my kid to succeed. So if it'll help to give him a candy in order to study, so I'll give him a candy. And if I feel I need to shout at him in order to study, so I'll shout at him. But really nothing changed. I really want him to study. The actual Ratzon of Chesed or Din was just a symptom of the actual real Ratzon, which didn't change at all.
Right.
Or the same thing like, so you say, but wait a minute, what about when we say, Yehi Ratzon Milfanecha?
Right.
We're saying we are changing the Ratzon. So this is also not really a change in the Ratzon even. It's not even the Ratzon. It's like a guy who built a house. Like it says, he saw the Eibusher wanted to have a dir b'tachtonim. He wanted to have a house with his wife, with the Jews. That's Israel, right?
Right.
So the guy built a house for his wife, and he told her, "Oh, it's such a beautiful house I'm going to build for you. It's got this beautiful brown-colored walls, and it's got a pool table in the basement." He said, "What do I need a pool table for?" "I want pink walls. And I want a beautiful lounge in the basement where I can bring all my friends and we'll have hair dryers over there."
Right.
So then he runs back to the architect, and the guy says, "What, you changed your mind? I thought you told me you're a guy that never changes." He says, "I didn't change nothing. I really wanted to make my wife happy. That's what I always wanted. So if pink walls will make her happy, you'll get pink walls."
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't care if it's brown walls or pink walls.
Right.
What I care about is to make my wife happy. That's what I wanted before, and that's what I want now. So what changed? What changed was only the external things that this is mitlabishin.
Right.
How to make his wife happy. And that's why his wife said, "Yehi Ratzon Milfanecha, I want you to change this Ratzon for a pool table to a Ratzon for something else, what I want."
Right.
And that's why we can say Yehi Ratzon Milfanecha. Because really what he wanted was to make his wife happy. Right. From you. As far as the Ratzon in terms of what kind of wall, As far as the Ratzon in terms of what kind of wall you're going to have, it did change. It changed from a brown wall to a pink wall. But as far as Milfanecha Daika, the Ratzon Milfanecha is exactly the same. He wanted to keep his wife happy. And the whole up and down, it's all exactly the same as far as he's concerned. Nimshach haratzon b'chochma midos b'shinuyim. Then it comes with shinuyim. There's ratzons for pink walls and ratzon for green walls, etc. Ad malchus dasiya. What is it? What's the next word here? I have the old one.
Omrim.
Omrim. Yehi ratzon milfanecha. Bishinui le'inyan asiya b'poel mamish. In other words, she doesn't want him to change his ratzon that he shouldn't love her anymore. Just the opposite. That's what she's playing on. She's playing on that ratzon.
Right.
She wants the ratzon for the asiya to change.
Right.
Midin lachesed. Okay, Gavna v'dalam mevin. So, this chapter was... This is actually the hardest chapter of the whole book.
Right.
Even though it's, some of the other chapters are like more intricate and harder to follow, but this chapter is the hardest to understand, actually.
Right.
And the Avai Loshanisi, not only that, this chapter is the actual point of the whole book.
Right, it is.
In other words, the real point of the whole book is not like in chapters like even 7 and 8, and that gives you the general thing of it and stuff like that, and how there's all the unifications of the Ksarim and the Chokhmah, and even in all the other Midos. But this chapter, which precedes chapter 10, is the actual point of the whole book.
Right, and Avai Loshanisi.
Avai Loshanisi means it's not just that this world is a lavush and the Eibusher is inside of it, and that's why he's hidden. But it means that there's literally no change at all.
Right.
In other words, the Eibusher is literally here with us, exactly the same. Atahu Achalon Nivra Olam, and now it's exactly the same.
Right.
And the fact that it's through a Tzimtzum, really that doesn't change anything, because the actual Eibusher is higher than it Pashtus and Tzimtzum.
On the contrary, the fact that it's through a Tzimtzum is how it is that it doesn't change.
Yeah, but the basic thing is also that the power of the Tzimtzum itself is, like he's going to explain later, is an infinite power of the Atzmus.
Right.
And by him, it doesn't matter to open and to close is the same power.
Right.
And not only that, in a way, it's almost like a higher power. That, in other words, it's no chokhmah to be an infinite light in an infinite light.
Right.
But to be an infinite light in a finite world is a bigger chokhmah.
Right.
In other words, to be able to put, that's the thing of 3,000 Masholim, that Shlomo HaMelech made 3,000 Masholim. It's Davka the Mashal Achron that he was able to put it into such a low mashal. That's the highest chokhmah.
Right.
And this world is a mashal Achron.
Right.
And the basic thing, what it means is Ani Avai Loshanisi, and that's the point of the whole book. It means that really the Eibusher is literally here, and that's the thing of like a tinuk. Al-Dad Zeh HaTinuk. It's like a tinuk says, what does he think? That the Eibusher's mom is standing here with us. Why can't we see him? Because he's invisible.
Right.
That's exactly what he said here.
Right.
As a matter of fact, there's a mimer from the Mittler Rebbe that he says that this is so close to the truth that it's mamish the truth.
Right.
It's mamish the truth. It's just like those angels were there, only the guy couldn't see them.
Right.
And the Eibusher's mamish here, it's just we can't see him. But really his mamish here, and not only that, everything that we're doing and everything that happens is literally the Or Makiv and Or Pnimi and the Atzmus of the Eibusher, it's all here.
Right.
And the fact is, in a Tzimtzum makes no difference. The Chashech HaKa'ira.
Right.
It makes no difference. As far as the Eibusher is concerned, it doesn't matter if he's revealed or hidden, it's exactly the same. Makes absolutely no difference. So this chapter is really it's the point of the whole book, and it's the hardest chapter of the book because that's what you're trying to understand. And
right.
All the next chapters is basically the pratim of this chapter.
Right.
And basically, chapter 9, 9 is the Mittler Rebbe's birthday and yahrzeit.
Right.
Which is this week.
Right.
This is a very big week. This is the Mittler Rebbe's week. This week is coming both the 9th and the 10th of Kislev.
Right.
As a matter of fact, what is it? The 9th of Kislev is what? Thursday, right? Today is Dalet Kislev, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this week culminates with Tes and Yud Kislev. It builds up to it. This whole week leads up to the 9th and 10th of Kislev, the Mittler Rebbe's days. Very special week. Okay, so